Hey, hey, hey. Okay, so I'm on a few seconds ahead. And I'm just on early because I wanted to see if anybody wanted to show up today. We're talking about insecurities in our relationships. And speaking of relationships, my husband is watching the New York Rangers game today, and he might get loud. So don't panic. He also promised he might sneak attack me and just scream at me if they score again. They're winning, so just so you know. And yes, it's 7:30 already, so we can go ahead and start. As you all know, hopefully, my name is Annie Woods, and I am an authenticity and confidence coach for women. This means that I help women embrace who they are in order to create the life they want. Instead of trying to change who they are, instead of trying to fix something that's wrong, I help them embrace who they are and get clear in what they want in order to attain it. I do this through one-on-one coaching programs. I do this through live workshops, and I do this through Untamed Woman, this awesome Facebook community. And because, I should have shut this down. And because I am really committed to touching the life of women, to sharing some of the knowledge that I've collected over the years, honestly, is why I've created this video series. And this video series is called 5 Days of Tackling Your Insecurities. Now, why did I want to do this particular series, and why is it important to me? Insecurities tend to be the one thing that prevents us from getting what we want. They are the agreement we do with ourselves about us not being blank enough. That's what we were talking about yesterday, what your insecurities are and where they come from. And what we were saying yesterday is that your insecurities are just this inner dialogue you have with yourself about who you are. And this dialogues, these ideas were ideas that you agreed with, that somebody taught you. Somebody taught you either by telling you that you were these things, or somebody told you by acting in a way that you felt that reflected on you. It happens with projections, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that, because precisely that's the place and that's the effect our insecurities have in our relationships. Just as you believe something about yourself that somebody told you, sometimes you are making someone else believe something about themselves that might not be true, because we tend to project our insecurities. Yesterday, before we wrapped it up, I was talking about some questions that you can ask yourself to go to the root of your insecurities. And there might be uncomfortable questions, but I always invite people to dare to get curious, because curiosity is the key and even the lock to our self-improvement. And by improvement, I mean to embracing ourselves. Sometimes we're too scared to ask the questions. And what would it be like if we finally got the answers? What can you do with those answers? My philosophy is that once you know something, you can't unknow it. So there is a shift that starts to happen when you start asking those questions. And that was my invitation. Yesterday I taught you, I didn't taught you, I told you that once you're feeling that you're caught up in your insecurity emotion, whatever that is, because insecurity doesn't only show up as shyness, it also shows up as anger, as pride, as humiliation. And I wanted you to find what is your go-to emotion when you feel insecure. Mine is anger, or used to be. No, I think it's anger. I think it never leaves. It's you just learn to deal with it and control it and move past it faster. So mine's anger. Once I feel that I'm angry in a moment of insecurity, in a moment of self-doubt, I ask myself these 3 questions. What shifted? What triggered me? What made me believe that I am not blank enough right now? The second question I ask myself once I discover and once I just sit with myself for a few minutes and figure it out, The second question is this emotion serving me? Is this anger serving me for something? What am I gaining by being angry? You might think, yes, this is a very obvious question, but it's not, promise. Because sometimes we really don't want to answer, and sometimes it serves us emotionally to be angry because it validates us. It makes us feel that we're right and somebody else is wrong. The third question I always invite you to ask is, what now? After you realize that, yes, this emotion is not serving me, what are you going to do with it? And that gets uncomfortable, but it's also so liberating and so empowering because you get to take responsibility for your emotions. And that said, that was just a little recap of what we saw yesterday. Let's dive in. So we said yesterday that emotions are reactions and are defense mechanisms that we create for ourselves to protect us from exclusion and the feeling of rejection. Now, how does that happen, and how does that pertain our relationships? Well, guess who we don't want to be excluded by? The people that we either want to be accepted by, or even the people that are supposed to accept us. Think about the first people that you wanted to please, the first people that might have made you feel insecure. Think about your mom, your dad, or your closest friends. Those were the first people you wanted to belong with. Now, what happened and how did this affect you? Usually as human beings, we project our insecurities on others. We made these agreements about ourselves, about who we are, and we project it in other people in two ways. The first way, we project by believing that others are just as we are. So if we feel insecure, we don't feel blank enough. We also think that others are not blank enough. And we project by believing that that's what others think of us. So, what happens here? And I want you to put yourself in your own shoes when you meet someone new, somebody that makes you feel insecure. How are you projecting onto them? If you think that this person is not as good as you, you will probably project one of your insecurities in the sense of this person is not blank enough to make you feel better about yourself. But if you are projecting, thinking that this is what other people think, meaning you are projecting, okay, so I'm meeting this person, just imagine you are meeting this really, really hot guy or really, really hot girl, and you really think that they are not gonna like you because you are not blank enough. You have not given this person the chance to even know you, and you are already projecting onto them what you have agreed with yourself that is true because somebody else taught you. And this person taught you that you were not blank enough, and I'm not going to repeat this incessantly because that's what they thought about themselves. I want to repeat this. Whoever taught you, either through actions or through words, that you were not enough in any area of your life, probably believed the same thing about themselves. And that's the agreement they made with themselves, and that's the agreement they wanted you to make with yourself. The second you agreed that, you started projecting onto others. Now, once you project, something happens. There is a reaction that comes. So what is the reaction? The reaction is whatever emotion you are feeling that will project outward. In my case, is anger. What is yours? What is that reaction that comes automatically when you feel that somebody else, when you are projecting on somebody else, when you feel that somebody else thinks that you are not good enough at whatever it is that you're thinking or that you're introducing yourself? Think about when you're with your partner, or think about when you're with your parents. How do you normally react when you think, oh, here they come again, thinking that I am not this enough, or thinking that I am too much of this? How do you react? Your reaction, it's exactly what's keeping you in the negative emotion, because it is a reinforcement of what you already believe. As human beings, we look for proof everywhere that the agreements we have made in the world are true. So if I believe as a coach that I am not a good enough listener, I am going to find ways in the middle of a coaching session to interrupt myself, to get distracted. And once I have to blink twice and ask my client, what did you just say? I am going to reinforce this thought that I am not a good listener. What are the thoughts that you are reinforcing through your actions? You're not consistent enough, you're not disciplined enough, you're not smart enough. What are these thoughts that you are projecting onto others? Hi, Vanessa. I was just talking about how our thoughts and our emotions are projecting onto others. How our insecurities that we've learned from people before us project onto our relationships and how it affected. So I was just saying that pretty much whatever you were taught about yourself, you agreed with. And you project onto others by believing that they already think this, even if they don't know you, or even if they've known you for a really long time. That's why a lot of the time it's easier to be yourself in front of strangers. As long as those strangers are not intimidating or do not portray a menacing stance for you, do not represent somebody that might think less of you. Because your insecurities are your thoughts of, I am not blank enough. So going through that, I was talking about the reactions that we take when we feel threatened, when we feel insecure, and when we feel doubt. Whatever reaction that is, whether it's anger, what is lashing out, anxiety, that is a reaction. That is an emotional reaction. Now, today I want to talk to you about what would happen if instead of reacting, you start responding. Yesterday I mentioned the concept of responsibility from a different aspect. Let's say that instead of thinking of responsibility as fault or blame, you start thinking of responsibility as the ability to respond to whatever comes to you, even if it's your thoughts, or even if it's a new person in your life, or even if it's a person that you are already really connected to. We get two choices in life. We get to play the victim, or we get to be responsible. You would say, how can you play the victim if nothing has necessarily happened? If when you meet somebody, or when you're in front of somebody you love, you decide before they've ever uttered a word what they think about you, and that is not enough, you are a victim to them, and they don't even know that they have the power. How would life look if you would start thinking, I am able to respond to anything, whether it's my fault or not? How does that feel? What are the thoughts that are coming to your head? What would it be if responsibility for your emotions meant that you were able to respond, not react to these ideas and these agreements that you have made about yourself? How would that look like? How would it feel if you felt if that was the empowerment that you had all through the day? So I invite you in your relationships to start take responsibility, to being able to respond to all that is presented to you. And you might say, Annie, that sounds a lot easier said than done. Yes, it is. I am not saying that this is going to happen overnight. I am saying that confidence is a practice. I'm going to give you my personal example and how my projections of my insecurities came into my relationship and come into every single one of the relationships I have every day. Hi, Leah. So this is what I want you to think. I got married last year to this wonderful, wonderful man, but we had never been together for a period longer than a week. We get into a house together, we move in, and then we get married a month after. And it turns out that we are both very insecure people. I was insecure about my status. I was insecure about my brains. He has his own insecurities. What happens when these two people that cannot handle how they project each other? Yes, I am wearing pink. I love pink. That's my pink. What happens with these two people that cannot handle their own insecurities, start projecting onto others? Imagine this. I come in and the dishes are dirty. My husband is sitting on the couch having a beer and watching a Rangers game. I have worked all day, and the first thing that comes to my mind is, here it comes again. Here comes, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. He thinks that I should do this. What's the insecurity you think got triggered there? I come from a family in which there were very specific female and male roles. What was triggered is my fear of being like my mother. What was triggered was my fear of not being a true feminist. What was triggered was my fear of not being an independent woman. Now, what happens, and this is a very personal message for everyone. Ladies, if you've ever been in a relationship, female or male, sex, it's a very vulnerable topic for all of us. What happens if my husband is making an advance on me and I say no off the bat because I just not feel like it? What do you think are the insecurities that might be triggered in a man's brain? Sometimes we think that they are not insecure about these things, but they are, because most men are trained to be the ones that make the advancements or the advances. And when you say no, what you're telling them is, you are not good enough. I do not want you that way. Or that's what they're getting, to be honest. It's not what you're telling them, but that's what they're understanding. And this lack of communication in your relationships, and I'm not only talking about your romantic relationship, can be the reason why you can't connect to others. Because when you are living in your insecurities, when you are living in whatever idea it is that you have about yourself, it is very hard to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Because they are so damn insecure about sex. Yes, they are. And it is important that we know it, rather than just think that they're not. And we embrace that and start putting ourselves in their shoes. Because we are too. And that's what I'm going into. What if, instead of us focusing in what we think someone else is thinking about us, we start connecting to other people genuinely? What if, once you meet someone, you are not stuck in your mind of, what is this person thinking about me? And you start actually thinking about them. Once again, easier said than done? Yes. But this is my tip, and this is the one practical part of this conversation. I invite you, the next time you're feeling uncomfortable with someone, the next time you are feeling insecure, the next time you are feeling self-doubt, either with a known person or a person that you've just met, I invite you to take a breather. 1, 2, 3. Look at this person and ask yourself, what do we have in common? And I don't want you to go into the destructive comparison. I want you to go into the, hi Danielle, I want you to think about this person in the most positive way that you can. And that is by finding your good in them. Counterintuitive? Yes, because we are not taught to do that. We are taught to meet new people and find their flaws. Because we are always thinking about that. We are always thinking about the negative. And let me tell you, ladies, your results are where your focus is. If when you meet a new friend, when you meet a new client, the first thing you look at is to see what they're lacking so that you can feel better about yourself, or the first thing you think is what you're lacking to justify not to move forward in that relationship, you are doing yourself and this other person a disservice because you are not allowing them to open up. So this is the tip. When you meet somebody, or when you're with somebody that's making you feel self-doubt and insecurities, take a breather. Look at them and find in them the one good thing that you have in common. It's called empathy. It's called connecting with someone in a way that's purely human. Stop looking at people to validate how you feel. Start looking at people to see how you can serve them. That is connection. All of your relationships has nothing to do with your insecurities. It has everything to do with how you are projecting them onto others. If you think when you meet someone that they don't believe in you, that they're gonna think that you're less than, you are not giving this person the chance to change their ideas, if that is true, or to learn something new about you. If you are engaging in a past relationship or in an already existing relationship, and all you do is block out your emotions because you already think that you're not good enough, you are not giving the other person the chance to discover who you really are. That is how our insecurities affect our relationships. Because when you are only stuck in your head and only stuck in what others are thinking about you, you are not thinking about them. That is not connecting. That is not nurturing healthy relationships. So that's what I invite you to do. Whenever you feel insecure and doubtful in the next few days, look at somebody and find the one thing that the two of you have in common that is positive, so that you can meet there and you can practice self-compassion. Because if you can see the good in that person and you can be compassionate to them, then you can be compassionate to yourself. Okay, I am done for today. I know this was a deep, let's say, heavy topic, but I needed to get it out of the way so that we can move into some of the things that you might be curious about in the next few days, like money, career, health, and body image. Tomorrow we'll be talking about our relationship with money and how our insecurities affect our freaking bottom line. Tip, or just a hint, you get what you think you're worth. Tough shit. Well, tomorrow, once again, we will be talking about money. And once again, there's a happy announcement on Friday. I can't wait. Thank you, everyone that watched. And thank you, everybody that's watching after hours. Have a great evening, ladies. Bye-bye.